People are singing, dancing, blah, 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 drinking alcohol the American way.
Welcome to Recotopia, a happy home for recommended movies, shows, and music from two people you can definitely trust. Trustability varies by region, no guarantees implied. Now, here are your hosts, Chris Atkinson and Jeremy Scott.
Am I seeing straight?
I'll say.
Well, see you around, girl.
Bye, sugar. We have been playing with the wrong band.
Sound, Daphne.
Hello, everybody. It is Sin. Oh, we were going to say Sincast there for a second. It is Recotopia episode 67, and we have a full-on crew here today, don't we? We have Jeremy. How you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
Doing all right. And Aaron Dicer's here today as well.
Heidely host Inarinos.
Do we want to tell everybody why?
We can do the announcement at the end, I think, because otherwise people might be just thinking about that the whole time. Who knows? I don't know.
I
Anyway.
do tend to dominate people's mind space. That is a thing that happens for sure. Yeah.
Once again, I'd like to acknowledge the chat. They have come out here to watch us on a Tuesday on Twitch and YouTube. Thank you guys for coming out. Today's big recommend is going to be Some Like It Hot from 1959. Do you guys have any small recommends?
It's no big deal.
Itty bitty living space.
It's so small and light.
It's small, it's tiny, it's petite, it's wee.
Yes, indeed. My small recommend is a show that I think is Peacock exclusive, so it's an NBC Universal property. It is the latest from Damon Lindelof, though he is co-running this show with Tara Hernandez, who did a lot of writing and work on what was the sitcom? It was one of the most popular sitcoms of all time, but I never watched it, so I can never remember. It was maybe Big Bang Theory. Does that sound right? So I think she was on Big Bang Theory and has done this, but it's Mrs. Davis, and I wanted to talk a little bit about this. I have really, really loved Damon Lindelof's television output, ever since Lost. I was slow to get on the end of times Rapture leftovers. Yeah, I was slow to get on the leftovers a little bit. The first season I wasn't kind of digging it, but then man, when it picked up steam, I was all over that. I am on record about how amazing his Watchmen series is, one of the greatest TV endeavors in my opinion of all time. So I was curious and interested to see what he and Tara were cooking up here, and I don't want to diminish Tara's participation in part in this because it really is from her idea. I heard an interview with her and Damon talking about this show, and she wanted to deal with a show that was comedy and lighthearted, but also dealt with like faith issues in a really interesting way, and also wanted to deal with how the internet and electronics have become kind of the new religion and the new faith, and how a overseeing algorithm could be misinterpreted as a benevolent God, like these kind of ideas. So there are these big ideas, which is going to appeal to me. And I loved it. Loved every single minute of it. Every episode is available to stream. The whole series is there. It can be a little disorienting for the first few episodes because there is a lot of weird stuff going on. What's really beautiful, I think, about this series and what Lindelof has done in other series as well is by the time you get to the end, it all falls into place and it all makes sense. And one of the greatest plot reveals I've seen in a long time happens in the penultimate episode of this series. And I really, really enjoyed Mrs. Davis, so I wanted to give it a shout out.
Nice. Okay. I have seen good things about this on the tweets, and I have the Peacock, so I might have to check it out.
I mean, you're also dealing with, Betty Gilpin, who is just, a pleasure to watch in everything she's in. And I forget the guy's name. He was in the Limitless show, and I really liked him there. He's got a really kind of interesting presence and sense of humor. So
I know that guy.
Yeah, and they work well together. So yeah, it's really good.
All right. Jeremy, what about your small recommend?
Batman. Batman,
Ooh.
Batman, 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 Batman.
Ooh,
Okay,
Batman.
so
Lots of Batman.
I'm going to recommend an issue of Batman that they're calling Batman 900. Came out end of April, beginning of May. And it feels to me like actually 2 issues worth of pages. And so I think it's a double issue. And it's technically Batman 135, but if you go back to all the different Batman titles over the years, this is 900th Batman comic.
Wow.
And it's awesome. Now, backstory that you don't need, but I'm going to give you anyway. For the last several episodes, the main villain issues, the main villain in Batman has been the Red Mask. And we've known his name, but we only just in the previous issue learned that he is a sane Joker. He's the Joker if the Joker never went insane. Which is kind of a fascinating thing to explore because the Joker's main thing has always been his insanity. Well, the one that I'm recommending, number 900, sees this Red Mask deciding he wants to be insane like the Joker. So he creates a rift in the multiverse and starts jumping to different universes, trying to turn Jokers in every universe he goes to or understand what makes them turn. Well, somebody, I forget who it was, attaches, I think Batman, attaches a beacon. And so Batman's being pulled through this multiverse, 1.5, 2 universes behind the Red Mask. So he keeps seeing the carnage of a new Joker or a Joker that's dead. But the point of all this is that this is a love letter to Batman comics and movies and cartoons. If there's a Batman that you love, he's in this. We see his multiverse. We see Adam West's Batman. He actually gives his utility belt to our Batman, and it comes in handy. We see the Dark Knight Returns Batman, who is old and uses armor. A Batman Beyond, who's not even Bruce Wayne, but Bruce Wayne is in that series. And he just jumps through all these different Batmen. And it's not this over grandiose, look at how important everything is. Like I feel like the MCU is doing with their multiverse. This is just fun. This is just, hey, do you like Batman? Flip the page, you're going to see another Batman. Do you like Batman? Flip the page, you're going to see another Batman. And I had so much fun with it. And Batman loses his hand. It's crazy. But highly recommend. Our good friend Patrick Chris recommended this issue to me. Yeah. And I bought it instantly and just cackled all my way through it. So that's my big recommend, or my small recommend this week.
That's awesome. Did you guys ever see that Corridor Digital thing they did where they put Adam West in the last year's Batman movie?
No, I bet it's awesome though.
I guess they did it last year when the trailer was out. So they just did it where they put Adam West stuff in the Batman trailer, just plugged him in, and all the characters too. Like they put in the Burgess Meredith Penguin inside the Colin Farrell one. So it looked almost fairly seamless and funny. It was really funny and well done. But I have my small recommend is something that actually kind of ties into today's movie, and I didn't mean for it that way. I just kind of picked a random movie off of my shelf that I hadn't seen. Witness for the Prosecution from 1957. It is a Billy Wilder film, just like Some Like It Hot. And it starts off kind of comedy-esque, and you're like, is there going to be, this seemed like it was going to be kind of a drama at first, but but it does turn into one, but not like a really super hardcore one. But this stars, is it Tyrone Power, I think is his name? I don't know if I've ever seen that guy before, but it's Tyrone Power, Charles Lawton, and Marlene Dietrich. Charles Lawton plays this lawyer who's just recovered from a heart attack. He's coming back to his place of business. He's ready to go, but he's got a nurse who's like, you can't do anything difficult right now. You just came off of this heart attack. But then an intriguing case and a guy with cigars that he really wants to smoke comes into the office and tells him that my client has been accused of this murder and he is completely innocent. There's a bunch of circumstantial evidence. Will you take this case? And so he takes this case. Then his wife, Marlene, played by Marlene Dietrich, comes in and says, one of the things that he told you wasn't true about this. There's a matter of a will that the person who got killed left 80,000 pounds for the character played by Tyrone Power. And he claims he didn't know about it. So if he didn't know about it, he couldn't have killed her for the money, right? So that's the setup for this, basically just a courtroom drama, but it's really, really well done, of course, because Billy Wilder's awesome. Throughout the whole thing, you're going to see the prosecution call their witnesses, and then finally a surprise witness for the prosecution turns out to be Marlene Dietrich. His wife goes onto the stand to testify against him, and the reason why she is able to testify against him, even though that's against the rules usually, is that they find out that that the marriage that they claim to have isn't real. So why does she do this, and why, and are they going to be able to find out what really happened in this murder situation? Anyway, this is a really good movie. The less I talk about it, the better for you guys, so that you can find the reveals for yourself. But this is a very well done movie, very funny. Charles Lawton, I believe, got nominated for an Oscar for this. He is really great in this, and it's just a different kind of lawyer than you've ever seen in movies before. So highly recommend this one. If you're gonna run through some Billy Wilder, this is a good one.
I was gonna say, here's hoping you didn't just torpedo one of our super secret double features there.
It was it was absolutely one of my possibilities. It is a phenomenal film. I back up this rec wholeheartedly. I watched this during like the first year of pandemic. It was when I was like kind of plowing through some older stuff, and I think it's one of the greatest courtroom dramas ever. I like some of the courtroom stuff in this movie is so well done and engaging. So yeah, it's a good one.
Yeah,
for sure.
That leads us into our big recommend.
I'm fine. It's just that you're so big.
It's so huge.
It's a good rule, but this is bigger than rules.
It's bigger on the inside.
Is it? I noticed.
1959, Some Like It Hot, also directed by Billy Wilder. You look at his filmography, it's just stunning. It's just absolutely
wild,
incredible. I believe we once put him on a Mount Rushmore or something. I think we did. But Some Like It Hot starts off with an interesting opening. We find out we're in Chicago in 1929 during Prohibition, and we see some gangsters getting chased by some cops, and the cops shoot at the car, and they shoot holes through this coffin, and the coffin is leaking alcohol. We find out, and this is what they've been doing. They've been smuggling alcohol into a funeral parlor, which is a front for a speakeasy. And so people walk into this funeral parlor. They've got to know the right words to say to get into the speakeasy. Go into the speakeasy. There's a huge party going on. Basically, it's this huge club where people are singing, dancing, blah, 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 drinking alcohol the American way.
Those walls are soundproof as hell.
Yes, they are. That's very correct.
Can I just add about the opening? One of the things that impressed me so much is just like, you watch older movies sometimes, and the exposition they do is so expertly revealed. Like that scene tells us everything we need to know about the setting, what's going on. It does it so in a clever way. Like today, they would be in a bar and somebody on the news would be like, "We enter the 3rd year of Prohibition this year," and like it's just like, I love that kind of stuff when it's just like really.
How somebody's in a bar during Prohibition.
Right? Yes, exactly. A juice bar. It's a juice bar, Jeremy.
Right. Absolutely. We are introduced to our main characters here, played by Tony Curtis and Jack Lemmon. Tony Curtis is a saxophone player. Jack Lemmon is a bass player, or a double bass if you prefer. And they are part of the band that's playing the music in there. Of course, we find out that this is going to get this place is going to get raided because the cops discussed this with an informant beforehand, and when it gets raided, they run away, and they escape arrest, of course, and then just they go the next day they go back and look for work because they're going to be out of work now that the speakeasy has been raided, and they go to each of these rooms looking for work, looking for band work, and even one place. Tony Curtis is apparently a big womanizer. He asked this woman out on a date, and he stood her up. And as a joke, she says, "Oh, there is one job that we have for you. Why don't you go back here and find out what it is?" And this guy is looking for a sax player and a bass player for an all-female band, but he doesn't know that going back in there. So he said, you got a job. And he said, there's no way you're going to be able to get in this. You're men. You can't get into this all-female band. And so they decide they're going to have to get the hell out of town. They're going to go, they want to borrow the woman's car, the one Tony Curtis stood up. They go to borrow that car. They go down into a garage, and that's where the informant is with a bunch of his gangster friends or whatever, his buddies are there. And then the gangsters show up and they shoot Toothpick, the guy named Toothpick, I think is his name, shoot him along with all of his buddies while Tony Curtis and Jack Lemmon are down there. And of course they have witnessed a murder. The gangsters are going to kill them, but one of the people doesn't, I think Toothpick doesn't die just long enough to create a diversion. And Tony Curtis and Jack Lemmon run out and escape. And so they decide, okay, why don't we to evade these gangsters, we need to lie low, we need to figure out a way to do this. Why don't we dress up as women and get into this all women's band and everything? So yeah, their names are Joe and Jerry. So Tony Curtis is Joe, he's going to be Josephine. Jack Lemmon is Jerry, he's going to be Geraldine. But then he throws a curveball at the end, and so when they're introducing themselves, and he calls himself Daphne because he hates Geraldine. They're trying to act like they're trying to learn the ropes of how to walk and talk like women. And when Marilyn Monroe walks by them, Jack Lemmon, who is now Daphne, says, look at how they walk. It's like Jello on springs. It's an entirely different sex. And so they get on the train. We find out that Marilyn Monroe's playing a character named Sugar Cane, which is definitely a cover. And she has gotten in trouble before for drinking too much alcohol. And if she's ever caught again, she's going to get kicked off the train. And so Josephine and Daphne are now trying to they kind of forget that they're women at times, and they really are attracted to Marilyn Monroe. I wonder why. And so they befriend her on the train. There's even a point where a liquor bottle falls out of her dress, and Jack Lemmon as Daphne covers for her and says that that's my bottle so that she doesn't get kicked off. Sugar starts to enjoy the friendship that she and Daphne have. She even shows up in her bunk in the train, and the whole big huge party starts, which is a funny thing for me. The party is loud as hell, and it's not until it's over that the main person comes
They're
out
in the
what's
same
going on?
room. They are in the same room. There's 30 women in one bunk. Yeah.
Yeah. And then it's not too long after that Sugar starts befriending Josephine, played by Tony Curtis, and Tony Curtis learns a lot of things about her. She's attracted to sax players. Ooh, well, what a surprise! What a coincidence! And she's got all these problems, and then he comes up with an idea. Once they hit Florida, this is where it's set, even though I believe it was shot in San Diego. They go to Florida, and Tony Curtis comes up with an idea. I can do a double disguise. I can be a woman for the band, but I can be a man playing a millionaire when I'm not in the band. So the whole thing is play with this female band, and then he changes into this person who's Shell Oil Jr. basically is what it comes down to. Yeah. He's Shell Oil Jr. and they happen to run into each he and Sugar run into each other on the beach. They strike up a conversation. He tells her all the things that she wants to hear to get with him. And they start a romance, but he plays really hard to get.
It's weird.
It's very strange. I don't exactly know what the point of that is, other than maybe you're trying to get the audience to be sympathetic with her making the moves, I guess. It's kind of a weird thing. If he just goes ahead and says doesn't lie this much and whatever, maybe the audience doesn't think this is completely on the level or something that we should. Tony Curtis doesn't seem to be that good of a guy, really, honestly. There's not really any reason to root for him to get Marilyn Monroe.
No.
So that's a weird thing about this movie, but I think the reason why he does this hard to get thing is that so that she will make all the moves. I'm not sure.
I do think there's something about it to make it feel a little less sleazy, but at the same time, it's still a form of manipulation, right? Like it's still a but it does allow the audience, I think, to more laugh at it than be going, how terrible is this that he's just completely, pretending to be another person to seduce her kind of thing.
Yeah, so he does this whole thing, and I'm not going to mention a movie that this reminds me of, just in case it's one of your double features. But he does this whole thing where basically he says, I had a girlfriend and I was totally in love with her, and she died, and now I'm completely frigid, and I no woman can make me want to be with them ever again. You can
try to kiss me. You can try to see if you can, make it mean something, but it's not going to work. It
really isn't going to work. And so she kisses him several times, and no mortal man would be able to handle this. No mortal human could handle this. And so he gets to that point where he's finally successfully seduced her, but then more complications arise. At the hotel, there is a Friends of the Italian Opera thing that shows up in town, and guess who? It's all the gangsters from Chicago have come to arrive in Florida, and they not only is it's like a Five Families type of deal. I don't know if they're all from Chicago. I guess they might be, but so our original gangsters come in, and they actually see Jack Lemmon and Tony Curtis dressed up as women, and even ask them at one point, didn't we see you somewhere before? Maybe Chicago? And then Daphne says, we wouldn't be caught dead in Chicago, which is a really good line. And they are being chased about, but there's a big, huge meeting they get chased basically into the room where all the gangsters are going to meet, and they're under this table while the Chicago gangsters, or at least the one side of the gangsters that we know, are sitting at one end of the table, and then a whole bunch of others are seated around in this like U form of a table or whatever. And this guy comes up and he says, glad that I elected myself leader. That was a good choice on you guys' part. I thought that was a funny thing. But he's saying he's going to retire and he's going to leave it to somebody else. And but before that, there's some unfinished business because of the gangsters killed Toothpick Charlie and his other people, and it was a big, huge news story that gave gangsters a bad name. I think it's patterned on the St. Valentine's massacre from that Al Capone orchestrated back in the same era, whatever. But this is something that they shouldn't have done this. They shouldn't have done something so public and so dramatic. So, of course, they kill the gangsters right there in a hotel, just as dramatic and whatever. But they kill those gangsters, and guess what? Jack Lemmon and Tony Curtis are on the run again because they've witnessed these murders, and now they're running through the building, being chased by them. And ultimately, they need to get out of there. Tony Curtis ends up telling Marilyn Monroe, I can't be with you because my father has set me up with somebody else in Venezuela, and there's a merger going on, and I guess marrying his daughter is going to be the thing. That's the lie he tells. The thing that I haven't gotten to in this whole thing is Jack Lemmon is being seduced by a man named Osgood during this whole thing. He's a millionaire. So Daphne, of course, resists this man's advances all the way through. There's even a point where they get on an elevator, and there's a suggestion that she got pinched during it, and of course she keeps doing this whole thing where it's like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. So there's a point where Tony Curtis finds a way to do a switcheroo where Osgood will pursue Daphne on land while Josephine takes Marilyn Monroe on the yacht, on Osgood's yacht, without him knowing. And so while they're on the yacht, Osgood and Daphne are sitting there like dancing the night away. These are some funny scenes. Jack Lemmon sitting there dancing and pretending to be this woman, and there's a point where he leads, and Osgood's like, "You're leading again." He's like, "Oh, I'm sorry," or whatever. So after the yacht trip and everything, Tony Curtis comes back, and Jack Lemmon dressed as Daphne is sitting there like shaking these maracas or whatever. And he goes, what happened? He goes, I got engaged. And he said, and Tony Curtis is like, you can't marry him. Do I have to explain why you can't marry him and everything? He's like, well, why not? I figure we could get the marriage, we could get an annulment afterwards, and I could get half of his money. Why not? Why shouldn't I do that? So he also gives Daphne this like diamond wristband, diamond bracelet thing that Tony Curtis ends up giving to Marilyn Monroe as a going away present, essentially. But the whole idea is that he's going to proceed with his marriage, but and okay, now I'm gonna. Where am I at now? I kind of skipped.
Well, you went back to talk about the Osgood stuff, but I think you're back to them running from the mob the second time.
So they're running away from the mob again. Yeah. They get on the boat. So Tony Curtis ends up telling Marilyn Monroe, "Hey, I lied this whole time," and she's okay with it because it's a happy ending. It doesn't really matter. And then Osgood and Daphne are in the front of the boat at the end of this. This is a famous scene. Mm-hmm. Daphne is telling him, I smoke, I can't have kids, and everything that he comes up with is, well, that doesn't matter. That's not a big deal. This is what, basically I still love you. And then finally he's like, all right, darn it. And he pulls off his wig. He's like, I'm a man. And Osgood says, well, nobody's perfect. Meaning he's attracted to the person more than, he's attracted to the person more than anything. And that's how the movie ends. And it is fantastic and perfect. So Jeremy, what did you think about this movie?
I really enjoyed it. It was my first time to ever see it. And it's wild that the discourse we're having in our country right now, and this was in the late 50s. Although in reading about it, I did read that the state of Kansas banned this movie. So if it came out today, if they re-released it today, would Kansas ban it again? Would Florida beat them to it? I don't know. I will tell you this. If you like Marilyn Monroe or simply want to like Marilyn Monroe, I would not recommend reading up on the filming of this movie. But I will read you one entry from the IMDb. She required 47 takes to get "It's Me, Sugar" correctly.
Yeah.
Because she kept saying sugar, it's me, or it's sugar, me, which reminds me so much of that Friends episode where Joey's just supposed to say soup, but he keeps saying noodle soup. And then she's supposed to say, where's the bourbon? Rummaging through drawers, but she kept saying whiskey. So he wrote the line on the inside of the drawer, but then she forgot which drawer to open. So he put the line inside every single drawer. There are about a dozen other entries in here that don't exactly cast her in a positive light. Although I think there's reason to believe that maybe she was pushed throughout her career into some of these behaviors. But
I think so. And she only has 3 more movies after this.
What a shame.
Yeah, it is a real shame.
She's still magnetic.
And I haven't read much about The 7-Year Itch. I've seen the movie, but that was Billy Wilder did that movie too. Was it The 7-Year Itch? I can't. Is it The 7-Year Itch? Yeah, I think it's what it is.
Yeah.
And I don't think I've heard the stories of Marilyn Monroe. I don't think that he would have worked with her if that was a problem a few years prior to this movie. So,
right. Well, I mean, it does say he had a cast dinner for Some Like It Hot and specifically did not invite her.
That was after this. Yeah,
she was really upset. So
I'm just saying, before this, did The 7-Year Itch? I don't think I heard anything.
There may not have been any issue there. So something must have changed. I don't know. But
So
yeah, it's really funny. I like how dramatically it starts. It starts like an Al Capone movie, and I even made a note that I was not expecting this opening to what I was led to believe was a cross-dressing road comedy, because it's violent and but yeah, it's all leading. It's all to set up the seriousness of why they need to run. That's all the times that they do.
Yeah,
So.
there's like there's like dead people with like blood coming out of them and stuff. I was kind of surprised to see that in a 1959 movie, but
Yeah.
I don't know how long they had been kind of doing that. Usually people would get shot and you would see no holes, no blood, nothing, and you just oh okay, my imagination will tell me that they got shot. But in this they went with the makeup and everything. Aaron, what did you think about this movie?
Oh, I love this movie. I think I love it in that it is one of the funniest movies ever written. Like it's like there are so many great lines in this movie. I was saying to somebody yesterday, Billy Wilder is becoming very quickly to me kind of like Aaron Sorkin prequel. Like like there's just the way that that he chooses to put all this together and do all this is really, really hilarious. We haven't mentioned that Tony Curtis is doing a Cary Grant impression for his rich guy, and it's such a good Cary Grant impression.
It is.
It slays me every time he says something, and I just have to believe during that time that absolutely killed in the theaters.
I bet.
To hear him doing that was amazing. You mentioned the Maraca scene where he's so excited about getting married or whatever, and it has that line. I think somebody in the comments mentioned it, like, "Who's the lucky girl?" And he says, "Me." And he does the maracas or whatever. Apparently, that scene hit so hard during the previews. People were laughing so hard they had to reshoot that with the maraca bit to give room for laughter after those lines. So yeah, it's just one of the funniest movies I think that's ever been made, and I think there are plenty of awards and bodies that have mentioned it as such. I think AFI put it at the very top of 100 comedies list that they did. Yep. It's always in the AFI top 100 American movies list. It deserves the respect it gets. But for me, I love it mostly for the one-liners just throughout. There's just little throwaways. Like at one point, after they find Marilyn Monroe has a little flask or whatever in her hosiery or whatever, and then I think one of his next lines is, "Did you check out the shape of that liquor cabinet?" And it was just little stuff like that. It just slays
when
me.
they run up to the train where they're first dressed as women, and one of them goes, "We're the new girls," and the other one goes, "Brand new." And I just started dying.
Yeah, there is the only watching this with 21st century eyes in mind. There are some things you start to wonder, like. It does give a little bit of, it goes into that men dress like women to be lecherous kind of thing that we hear bandied about is one of the reasons that, men can't dress like women and women can't dress like men, or the bathroom situation or whatever, because then it'll get taken advantage of. So that was a little icky to me that the movie focused so much on kind of the lechery of it. There really is that train scene. It really is about, we're using being a woman as a way to, peekaboo and play around and get close to him and stuff. So yeah, there is that.
Yeah. Slab was talking about the Hays Code on this. Now I had read that we know that the Hays Code at this point, filmmakers aren't really adhering to it that much. It's not being used as restrictively as it was before. But I also saw something, I think, in the IMDb trivia that said that it was they did it without the Hays Code. Essentially, I think they just said that they're just not gonna. I don't know. They're not gonna get a chance to see this movie and tell us whether or not we can play it or not. I guess I'll need to read more up into that. It may the work around the Hays Code comment in the IMDb may just be that they were being. They were pushing the limits, but they weren't going too far or whatever, so that they could get through it. But I don't know. That's an interesting thing that if you ever watch anything on the Hays Code or read up the Hays Code, it's you got the sense that when it was something that was like a hammerlock on all movies. You had to adhere to the Hays Code at all times, but movies were like the different philosophies and thoughts about what should go into movies. It was getting a little bit more liberal about that. Even in the late 50s and until the 60s, it finally just dissipated and they created the rating system. And we can all ask which one is better, the Hays Code or the rating system. That's for another day. This is a delightful movie. And I read these Marilyn Monroe comments, and I can't help but think that they're probably true about what they endured on this. But I also know this comes from an era where it was still okay to just say, well, she was difficult or whatever, and she may have had some other ideas about the movie that she and the director didn't agree with, and so then it becomes this whole thing, like it becomes almost a lore of some sort that she was so difficult on this film. I got the sense that this was probably true for some, for the most part true, but I still think there's something in there that there might be some sexism going on there as well.
Sure. Yeah, I thought the same thing.
Because if it's Tony Curtis that has a problem with a line 40 times, would they have said anything about Tony Curtis? Would he have come out and said, hey, Tony Curtis had trouble with this one line 40 times and we had to shoot it over and over and over again? Probably wouldn't have heard about Tony Curtis. But anyway, all right, it's time for both of you guys to give me your super secret double feature, which makes this a super secret triple feature.
Secret triple feature.
Be very, very quiet. Secret? What secret?
Our dirty little secret.
I tell you something I've never told anyone.
I want Aaron to go first.
Okay.
If Aaron I have two, and if Aaron chooses my preferred one, I will be mystified. But I still want to let him go first since it's his first official time giving his super secret double feature pick.
No, I don't think there's a chance that this is yours. I don't even honestly know how you guys feel about this movie, but I really like it, and it was mentioned in the chat as one of the possibilities. I'm going with Sister Act for my double feature, and I really enjoy this movie. I think it's done really well. I think the story is told really well. It's a very similar case of have to hide in a musical group to avoid the mob who I saw murder. It's like, in many ways, I wouldn't be surprised actually if somebody was like, hey, what's a version of Some Like It Hot that we can do? Because it really has that feel to it. So yeah, Sister Act is my super secret double feature.
And the second one, you get young Jennifer Love Hewitt.
Mm-hmm.
And you get
that's right.
That's true.
The gal from the Fugees.
Oh, Lauryn Hill.
Lauryn Hill. She's in the second one too.
And before Jeremy gives his super secret double feature, there is one other thing I wanted to say that I think is valuable to say right now about the movie itself, which is the new Broadway show just got the most Tony nominations for the season. So they got like 13 Tony nominations for the new show, including nominations for Jay Gee and Alex Newell, who I believe are the first non-binary people to ever receive a Tony nomination. Because the new version plays the Daphne character as a more genuine kind of realization about who they are, as opposed to, two men dressing like women. Like there's more nuance to those characters, but it keeps the comedy, which I think is a really smart take. On what's going on here, where you've got one who is really just playing a role and the other who is learning something about themselves, which actually it's kind of there in the original movie, by the way. Like, a lot of that Daphne stuff contains a little bit of that. So,
All right. Well, I'll give you both of mine, even though my preferred one is the one I'm going to give last, and that's the one I prefer. But I hovered over The Freshman for a really long time, just because I felt like there was some fitting in organized crime-esque things. I found what I think is a better one, and I'm not even positive you've seen this movie, either of you, but it's 1999's Happy Texas.
Oh no, I remember this, but I didn't see it.
This is Jeremy Northam and Steve Zahn as escaped criminals who steal a van that turns out to be the van of two gay men who are pageant choreographers on their way to the town of Happy, Texas. So these two are stopped by a police officer for speeding. He mistakes them for the two gay choreographers, and they spend a few days in this town choreographing a child's pageant while trying to hide from the cops, while trying to have relationships with these women who think they are gay, that they've fallen for, and while the third escaped prisoner shows back up and tries to show who they are. I saw it only once. I rented it with a good buddy back in college or just after college, and I remember laughing a lot. It's got a pretty good rating on Rotten Tomatoes. I just feel like there is a kindred spirit there in the hiding out, pretending to be something you're not, while cops and criminals may be after you. So there you go.
All right. The movie that I was thinking of when I didn't want to say what the possible double feature was when Tony Curtis is playing hard to get is Dirty Rotten Scoundrels. Because there's a lot of similarities between that movie and this movie as well in certain places. But anyway, Jeremy, what is next week's homework?
I love how we were certain with a third host we were not going to have time for questions, and we're going to have time for questions.
Yes, we are.
Your homework for next week is on Disney Plus. It is a movie I have not seen since the 90s. It's Candle Shoe, starring Jodie Foster and David Niven and Helen Hayes. This is a movie about a street girl and a criminal who convinces her to go to this rich old woman's castle and say, hey, I'm your long-lost granddaughter, because he's figured out that there's a pirate's treasure buried somewhere on the grounds. And so she begins kind of lying to this family, but they take her in and they're really kind, and she's looking for the treasure, and there's an adventure. And I must have watched this movie 60 times when I was in middle school. So there you go. I'm excited to get back to it. Haven't seen it in probably 30 years. And it's on Disney Plus. It's rentable for $3.99 and several other places. Candle Shoe.
All right. Do we have some time for some questions?
Question. I got something to say. I want the truth.
I am listening.
Unbelievably, I hope we have enough questions for the time.
We moved so fast that we actually did it with the three people and everything.
Well, you know what? If we've got time, I have one more thing about Some Like It Hot that I want to say, which is I never realized the word hot was a play on words, which the first time ever in researching it this time realized it's a jazz term for improvisation. So hot jazz is a type of jazz that's all improvisation. So the idea of Some Like It Hot is like some like it improvised, some like it, taking it as it is, which kind of fits with a lot of the themes. So it's a lot better title than I realized.
One of my favorite things about jazz, I was into jazz for about 3 years in college because there was a really good jazz club in Chicago. There's probably 12 really good jazz clubs in Chicago. But I would go there frequently. It had good pizza and it was tight, cramped seating. But jazz songs can be 25 minutes long. Sometimes an entire set can feel like one song, and it's not like any other form of music. Anyway, all right, let's get to these questions, which I say here in the notes. We almost certainly won't have time for questions. What is the worst original movie song you will admit to enjoying?
This one, everybody's gonna hate me when I say this. I don't know. You may not even know what the song is. It's kind of obscure at some point, but Limp Bizkit's "Take a Look Around" at the end of the Mission Impossible 2 soundtrack, the credits, is one that I really like, and it has a special place in my heart because I watched this movie with Jeremy and I's buddy Russell back in the day, the song starts playing at the end of the credit. We just watched the Thursday night, what we usually do on Thursday nights, watch those movies before they come out. The credits roll and they play Limp Bizkit's "Take a Look Around." And there's a point where it's just like, it just goes insane with like the mosh pit type of music that it's playing. And Russell goes all the way down to the front of the auditorium and he bends down and then he just does all these like big dance moves right in the front of the auditorium. But I don't know. I'm a sucker for this type of thing where it's just super hard rock, through it. And so I really, really dig that song, even though I can admit that it's terrible.
I'm a sucker for big ballads, and so as much as people get sick of those songs, I just never get sick of them. I could listen to Let It Go from Frozen today and love the snot out of that song. Like it's, or My Heart Will Go On from a Titanic, or, whatever the big ballad is. Like I just, for whatever reason, I really get into them. The Bodyguard, I Will Always Love You. Like those are the kind of original songs where I'm just like, turn it up and pretend like I can sing. Like
that
Whitney
song
Houston.
from The Bodyguard was #1 for 6.5 years.
Yeah, it was on a very, very long time.
It was.
I find the song the kids play at the end of School of Rock to be insipid and cloying, and I still bop to it. And I credit Jack Black's enthusiasm as well as the kids' charm throughout the movie having already endeared me to them. But if you break down the lyrics to that song, it's nonsense, and it's some poorly written, baby, we was making straight A's, but we was stuck in a dumb days. Don't take much to memorize your lies. Whose lies? I feel like I've been hypnotized. By whom? Then the magic man came to town, spun my head around, said recess is in session, 2 and 2 make 5, and now I'm alive. And then the chorus is, if you want to be a teacher's pet, baby, you better not forget about rock and roll not having a rhyme. Or it is a really insipid song, but I do jam out to it by the end of that movie. So there you go.
Nice.
Over in the chat, well, I had it on here a minute ago, and I don't have it now. Where is it? It was talking about the song from Spider-Man at the end of that. Was it okay? So it was somebody was asking if it was the Nickelback song "Hero" from Spider-Man 2, but that's Chad Kroeger. Actually, I mean, it's the same thing. But with Josie Scott, I actually like that song too. I don't know if it's considered bad by the masses, but that "Hero" song I really do like. So. Maybe I just like really bad.
It's not a great Hero song until Jacob Dylan and the Wallflowers cover it.
Yeah. There you go. Exactly.
Fair.
Okay, we got go on to the next one.
All right. What is a bad movie with a good idea that deserves a remake?
This is one that we answered this question ready for a podcast I don't know, probably a month or so ago, I guess. But I probably could have come up with a better one than this, but I still think this movie has a decent premise as long as you aren't doing it in a stupid manner as this movie did. There was a movie that came out a few years ago starring Rebel Wilson called Isn't It Romantic? Where she finds herself in a romantic comedy. She knows that she's in a romantic comedy. So everything plays off very fakey and not real to her as she lives in this world. And the stuff that the movie is saying is romantic comedy stuff just doesn't land for me whatsoever in it. And it's why the jokes don't seem to land for me at all. There's just a lot of things in there that even the worst romantic comedies don't do. And then they say, oh, well, this is what romantic comedies are like. And it's like, Hollywood putting a magnifying glass on itself is ugly, man. And it just needs to be an outsider making a movie like Isn't It Romantic? So that was the one that I came up with.
Aaron?
Boy, I love this question too much because I am a high concept like I love big concept movies, and when they don't work, it's really annoying to me. I think probably the biggest one I think of is Next, the Nicolas Cage movie. The idea of somebody who their gift / curse is that they can just see the next 2 minutes. That's a really interesting concept. And this movie isn't interested in exploring that concept as much as it is about creating some sort of apocalyptic, savior movie. Like it's I think a completely bungled plot. I would also throw out Cube, which I know has its people who love it, but I think its concept is the reason a lot of people love it. I don't know that the execution is as good as people say. Jumper's another one. Love the concept of Jumper, just teleportation, and I think that's bungled. I'm gonna throw out Yesterday. I think bungles its concept a little bit. Downsizing. Love the concept of downsizing.
You just stole my answer, even though it wasn't in the notes.
Sorry about that.
That's all right. Downsizing is completely
downsizing is a really smart idea, and then the movie just doesn't want to go there. And yeah, that's okay. That's what the movie wants to do. It's just not as interesting to me. And then finally, Jeremy might agree with this. Passengers is a good concept that needs a remake.
There's so many sci-fi. This is a sci-fi heavy question, I think, and almost any Philip K. Dick adaptation, as the chat has noticed, would work here, or any of the other famous sci-fi writers. I, Robot, I think, is what I'd settle on, especially given the race to AI right now in the real world and how much it's fooling us. I feel like iRobot is super timely, and if we just approach it as a non-Will Smith damn kind of vehicle, then I think maybe get a little bit different visual aesthetic. I think there's a great movie in that story. So that was my choice.
All right. I think we got time for one more.
There's some good answers in the chat too. The Purge is a great answer.
The Purge.
Some people saying Looper. I think I like Looper.
I like Looper, all right.
Yeah, I think Looper handles it okay. But yeah,
the Adjustment Bureau.
Ooh,
yeah,
that's a great choice.
Yeah.
That's a great choice. That's a really cool concept.
Yeah, I tried to tweet about that movie and saying I watched the Adjustment Bureau like a couple hours ago, and I already forgot everything I watched because that movie is really forgettable. But people thought I was making a joke that the Adjustment Bureau had adjusted my memory of having watched it. So that was one of my biggest tweet fails of all time.
Amazing. And then Slab's surprised my answer wasn't Sin City. Well, the parameters of the question was good concept turned into a bad movie, and this is not a great concept turned into a bad movie. So anyway,
all right, last question. What secondary character in a movie would you argue is the most popular and most successful in overshadowing the main characters, and why is it Doug from Up?
I love Kieran Culkin in Scott Pilgrim versus the World. I think he pretty much steals every scene he's in that movie. He's just, I mean, he really is like the funniest character whenever he is on screen. And I love Scott Pilgrim and I love all the other characters that are in it, but he's the one that always just like makes you smile when you see him on screen. So that's mine.
Good call. Good call. Aaron?
I have a couple. Matthew McConaughey in Reign of Fire. You know, he doesn't show up for the first, 40 minutes. A lot of people think he's, lead in that, but he's not in really most of that movie. That's a Christian Bale thing. And he just, that performance, may be my favorite Matthew McConaughey performance. I think it's just captivating what he does in that movie. Evan Peterson / Quicksilver in Days of Future Past, I think steals that movie and is a lot of fun. And Brad Pitt in 12 Monkeys, I think is.
I like how you came with answers, man. You came with a stack for all these questions. I'm going to go with a really recent one that's not in my notes. Chris Messina in Air, the Ben Affleck, Matt Damon movie about Michael Jordan. He plays the agent of Michael Jordan and has only a few scenes, one in particular that I think steals the whole movie, where he screams repeatedly about eating Matt Damon's balls. And I just think he it helps that Matt Damon's character and Jason Bateman's characters are written as kind of quieter, meeker kind of guys, and so that the agent gets to stand out. But I thought he stole that movie.
All right. That'll do it for the questions. And so why is Aaron here today? Why is Aaron here? Does anybody know why that is? Okay, anyway. This is an announcement that I am taking a sabbatical. I'm taking a really long sabbatical, in fact. I'll be gone for several months, actually. Nothing wrong with me at all. Just needs to take a break from all the stuff. You remember that Everything Everywhere All at Once video where it said I wrote over 600 scripts? Yeah, that's taking its toll. And then doing all these podcasts and things of that nature. I'm now going to be taking a break. We're gonna have an interesting next couple of weeks though, because next next week it will be Jeremy and Aaron talking about Candleshoe. And then there'll be a surprise episode after that that I will be back on, and you'll be like, oh, he's back. And it's really just, it'll be one that we're putting in the bank, essentially, even though the bank's not going to be a bank very much for much longer. But anyway, I'm going to be gone for a while. There'll be hints and traces of me over the next few months when you're going through our various Sins Media stuff, but I will be taking the time off. So anyway,
yes. Also, to that note, I forgot to say this earlier. Next week's live recording will be moved to 2 p.m. Central Standard on Tuesday, the 30th, instead of the typical 11 a.m. start. We apologize for the change there. But yeah, I just want to let you guys know that homework is Candleshoe. Bon voyage to Chris on the sabbatical, and Aaron will be my co-host for the foreseeable future. And I am very confident that the show will continue to offer solid recommends. And that's all I have to say.
It's going all Pixar from here on out.
Yeah,
all the recommends will be
M. Night
Pixar.
Shyamalan and Pixar movies.
Yes. Thanks for all the comments in the chat and everything. But Nick was asking, what would the 1960s movie be? When I come back, I am going to resume this comedy through the decades thing. So I will have a 1960s movie raring to go. I kind of want to tell you what it is now, but maybe I'll change my mind in the next 6 months. So I'm just going to leave that for you guys. I will have one ready to go once I come back. Anyway, thank you guys for your comments, and that's going to do it for this episode. Guess that's it. See ya.
Okay. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye. Be a part of the live show by being a member of the Sin Club at Patreon at patreon.com/cinemasins. Chat with us on the Cinemasins Discord at discord.gg/cinemasins or Cinemasins Twitter at Cinemasins, and email any comments or questions to Recotopia at cinemasins.com. That's RECOTOPIA at cinemasins.com.
Howdy. What's up?
What's up?
What's up?
What's going on?
I'm just actively refreshing my HBO Max app, waiting for it to go to Max.
Mine still says HBO Max as well. What a dumb decision.
I like the decision of combining in the Discovery stuff, and like I love that Naked and Afraid and BattleBots and like all that stuff's going to be on HBO Max now, but it's just the naming is weird.
HBO is a premier brand in visual entertainment, and you just stripped that off of your streaming service. If anything, you associate it now with Cinemax, which is far from a prestige brand. It has a brand.
And also you don't own, right?
No, they own
Showtime?
Cinemax. No, they own Cinemax.
Oh, do they?
Yeah, they have for a long time. Showtime owns one of the other ones. I don't
okay.
know.
Showtime's another CBS thing.
Well, yeah, that's on Paramount Plus now. Like, I like stuff like moving together. Like, that's good news.
Isn't this what we said 4 years ago was going to happen?
Of course. Yeah, it was the only way it was ever going to happen.
How much money was spent trying to stave off the inevitable?
You can do any year you want to. I think the only thing for Jeremy and I, we both worked in movie theaters in the 90s, and we got to see a lot of movies that people didn't see when they came out, and those just keep popping up as recommends because nobody talks about them. That's just the way it goes. So yeah, you can pick from any year you want to. I think the spirit of this, although I've picked just bona fide classics during this run through the decades and everything, was to find movies that people don't really talk about.
In like the underseen, underrated kind of category.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that.
But I don't think there's no rule that says you have to keep it to that. You can make it, you can make it The Matrix or something.
That would be amazing if my first big recommend was Jeremy's favorite movie of all time.
Yeah.
Oh, the audience would call you names in a fun way.
Yeah, when I record, it records everybody. So,
when I record, it records everybody. I have to fix my microphone situation. Hey, you guys talk amongst yourselves.
Will do. Will do.
Yep.
What's your favorite streaming service, Chris?
Ooh, that's a good
Where do you land? Like when you pop open like your apps, what's the one that you end up usually navigating to?
Best. Okay, so I mean, number one is YouTube. I would say
that's fair.
Go to
the
most often, but as far as something that makes original content and has a host of other content on it, I do find myself going to HBO Max quite a bit.
Yeah.
And I heard from a friend that he thought it was hard to navigate through it, and I was like, I don't see any difference between this and any other site. You just find the search and you hit the buttons and it finds the stuff for you. And I don't know what people are looking for, whether they're looking for that, like, I was looking for this obscure 1974 movie and it was supposed to show up magically in front of me when I went through all the genres.
Yeah, that's been the other thing that's happened with the apps too, is there has been a major coalescence around a UI. Like they all have basically the same user interface now. Prime is the only one that's still like, what are you doing, Prime? Like this is terrible. Every other one's kind of got it figured out. So yeah.
The ones that have the worst, like the good ones for me are the ones that you can go to, and if you stop the movie somewhere and you go to another place and it picks up right there, and that's a basic thing, but there are some sites that don't do it right.
Yeah.
So like the Criterion channel, you'll stop a movie at a certain spot, and either when you go to another place, it will back it up a couple of minutes or something, or it'll just start from the beginning, and you have to find the movie again too. You can't go to a recently viewed or anything like that. So Criterion's got a long way to go before they're good.
Somebody will buy them and incorporate them into their family.
I'm honestly surprised that HBO Discovery haven't just gone ahead and done it, because I believe they own most of the Criterion collection. So I don't know.
You know who's going to buy all of them? Chicken Soup for the Soul Media.
Yeah.
Hey, before we go to the show, I wanted to ask, I doubt you did. Did either of you watch the big golf tournament this weekend?
I didn't.
Bits and pieces, but only because I'm playing the course on the EA game, and it's all of a sudden made me more interested in watching the pros play the course that I'm playing on the video game.
I'm sure the PGA is happy to hear that. The PGA Championship is not put on by the PGA Tour. This is really complicated. It's put on by the PGA of America. PGA of America is the membership group of the golf course pros. So go to any golf course, and they're going to have a club pro who teaches lessons for people who want them, and often books tee times and sells shirts in the clubhouse. So the PGA Championship allows a certain number of these club pros to play, and this year one of them came damn close to winning. His name was Michael Block, and after 2 days he was like 4th or 5th.
That's amazing. That's so
then
fun.
He fell off a little bit the 3rd day. He ended up 15th, which means he gets to come back next year and play it again. And on his last day, he hit a hole-in-one, but a dunk hole-in-one.
A dunk. I saw that one. Yeah, just
I didn't see this.
And people are like, "It's Tin Cup! Oh my God, it's the real thing!" And I thought it was a fantastic story.
Yeah, that's cool.
I didn't know who was. I didn't know who was being talked about. I just saw the replay of that shot, which was ridiculous.
Yeah, you usually don't dunk them like that.
Well, and he said, did that go in too? Just
yeah, he didn't believe it.
It's hard to know if it doesn't bounce in, depending on your angle. And I think Rory McIlroy turned to him and said, "That was fucking awesome."
Yep.
I think it's funny that those guys are like, "Yeah, live golfers proved that we're still good at golf." I'm like, okay, I don't think any of us really doubted
that wasn't ever the issue.
Not really what my problem was, but okay.
Yeah, talk about a straw man, Jesus.